But a lot of kids today don't have that support. And we blame them when it's not really their fault. So I just want to give you the backup why I chose it. So my title is called The Never Destructive Path of Today's Youth, today's black youth. So one of the most dire and critical situations this country is facing is the exponential decline and deterioration of our black and minority youth. As our mass media horrifically fails to cover and bring to light the situation, its acknowledgement is quickly subsiding in the dark shadows of our society. The media sensationalizes and places importance on far less issues, but the failure of us, all of us here in this room, to adequately and effectively address the problems with our black youth has successfully turned this into a wide-scale crisis and official epidemic. The current state of our black youth is very clear and self-evident. They are failing because we are failing them. Many of our black youth, mostly poor and abandoned, cannot defend themselves. Because from day one, they are brought into a world and an environment that sets them up for failure. But most disheartening for them is that they have no one to speak up for them. No one that wants to amplify and vigorously broadcast their obvious cries for help, as our family structure has slowly broken down. What results is a whole troubled class of youth who are uneducated, have low self-esteem and confidence, have a feeling of unloved, and being unwanted, lacking high aspirations, resorting to criminal activity, and survival, and to feel important. Yet we are currently in a hypocritical and highly judgmental society that automatically 100% blames these youth instead of looking at outside circumstances that play vital roles in this situation. Nor do we look directly at ourselves. All while our method of fixing this problem is flawed from the beginning. See, what we have essentially been doing is simply cutting down the above ground leaves of our weed plate. We all have lawns. We have leaves on our lawns, right? So what we've basically doing is just chopping off from the top. What we really need to do is put our gloves on, our boots on, get on our knees, dig deep, and grab those roots from the ground and pull them up so it never grows again. We always hear that fancy saying, people, men and women lie, but numbers don't lie. So let's look at the statistics, because numbers truly showcase the severity of this crisis. The family structure and socioeconomic situations that many of these kids grow up in are troubling. Issues like increasing poverty and lack of suitable jobs. For example, let's take Philadelphia. 25% of families are living in poverty. They did a recent study of third graders in Philadelphia, inner city Philadelphia third graders. They found that 70% of them live in poverty and 9% are homeless. Now, of those statistics, 66% of those children are African American. The abundance of lack of fathers in these households is also disheartening. A 2011 USC study showed that 1 out of 5 black children had no father listed on their birth certificate. A ratio of 4 times higher than white children. A 2005 study found that 25% of black children do not live with a biological father, and 39% of black people do not live or interact with any father representative at all. About 39% of fathers rarely to never go visit their children. In Bill Cosby's book, Come On People, On the Path from Victims to Victims, he said, a house without a father is challenging, but a neighborhood without fathers is a catastrophe. As statistics will show, a fatherless environment results in negative effects on youth, like lower education performances, teen pregnancy, crime, and juvenile detention, especially resulting in single mother households. Today, mothers in many black households have the arduous tasks and duties characterized basically as a second full-time job. Without the lack of a father to help support or being around at all, mothers are left to play the mother and father roles. However, this second full-time job comes without the extra income and financial support. So as a result, many children are raised by single black mothers are raised in poverty-stricken households whose parents are not around and are removed from the household to work more hours and more part-time jobs. Now what happens is that since they're out of the household, this leads youth to grow up and ascertain their knowledge, insights, and motivations by watching TV and the media, right? By listening to negative rap songs that glorify materialistic consumption, mistreatment of females, violence, sex, and others. And because of the natural inherent urges to feel like they belong and loved. See, these kids, these black kids are not bad. They just want to feel like they love and they belong to something. Some community, some parents, some atmosphere. They run out to the streets to join gangs and surround themselves with negative friends, which only take them down a dark and troublesome path in life. With no father figure and no mother out the house, there's no structure in our black household for these youth, which results in things like an increasing teen pregnancy for females. National data shows that 70% of black children are born out of wedlock compared to 40% of general population. Even though there's a slight decline in black teen pregnancy, over the last several decades, they're still far ahead of the national average. Nearly half, I repeat, nearly half, 48% of black teen girls get pregnant at least once before the age of 20, nearly twice the national average. Teen pregnancy intensified by poverty can lead to unstable households and incidents like maltreatment of children, and eventual increase in black youth being abundant in foster care and under control of the state. Let's take LA County, a whole other area, Los Angeles County, California, for example, where 8% of the total child population is African American. I reiterate myself, 8% of all children in Los Angeles County, California are black children. However, a shocking 30% of children in foster care are African American. Now tell me those numbers don't add up. And statistics show that black children stay in foster care 50% longer than other ethnicities. Our education system is also failing these youth as well because the access to quality education resources are decreasing. Funding is being taken away, and it's not even a concern for our corporate-controlled politicians because they simply don't care. They don't care about our kids. The hypocrisy of our system has our youth labeled as stupid, hyperactive, troublemaking, low test scoring, future criminals, while at the same time our political leaders in places like Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, to name a few, are drastically reducing educational funding and closing down public schools and laying off teachers at record numbers. Instead, they're constructing for-profit private charter schools that take money out of our public schools and transfer it to corporate hands. Now, I'm not going to say all charter schools are bad, but these are the systems that we're working with.
Speak the truth, grandson. Speak it.
I do want to note that, look at Philadelphia once again, which recently made headlines for the decision to close 23 public schools, and their excuse was lack of funding. Philadelphia closed 23 public schools, and their excuse to taxpayers and to the city, to the state, to the country was lack of funding. But instead, they built a brand new state-of-the-art $400 million private prison. Is there something wrong with that? There's no funding for public schools for our black and our minority youth, but there's enough funding for for-profit private prisons. What is the message that we're sending these kids? It begs to ask the question, where are our priorities? We're living in a society that places more importance in building prisons than schools for our youth. This is something we all should be alarmed about. A society where nearly 23% of our young black men who have dropped out of high school are in jail today. A society where there are highly discriminating laws against them, like the stop and frisk law in New York City, that unfairly targets black and other minority males. This only solidifies the belief and mentality that they are already criminals. Before they even commit a crime, they're criminals. While at the same time building up the prison industrial complex system with the growth of all these private prisons that profit off of this epidemic of increasing black incarceration rates. Yes, they profit off of sending our black youth to jail. In fact, and listen to this, many states have contracts with private prison companies, have to sign an agreement with these companies to maintain a minimum occupancy rate in their jail, which translates to people being arrested for non-violent crimes, just to maintain this occupancy rate. It is clearly evident when you look at the statistics when black men are 5.8 more times likely than white males to be in prison. And although black males make up only 6% of this country's population, I repeat, black males make up only 6% of this country's population. Over 50% of those are incarcerated, which directly correlates with our black youth growing up without fathers. We already know this faulty system we live in sets our youth up for failure from the beginning. That there is clear evidence of institutional bias and systematic racism, that stereotypes are being perpetuated in the media daily, and gaps in income and education are expanding drastically. But in order to combat this and improve the chances of success for our black youth, we first cannot fall into this false belief. We cannot believe what they're telling us, because our black youth have a chance, and it's with our support that they can come out of that bubble that they live in. They're not bad. And what independence on this welfare state. Then we have to look into the mirror and look at ourselves and start to hold ourselves accountable. And must start organizing and forming a community in which we decide that we can't accept this anymore. And instead pull our resources and our time together to be more involved. These statistics and situations are extremely depressing and saddening, and it hurts my heart. As I mentioned, I'm very passionate about this, and I'm sure it hurts all your hearts as well. I'm sure it makes you all angry and outraged and full of despair. But here's the $1 million question I asked for everyone today. In a couple of hours, and after we finish this event, after we all go home, as the outrage starts to subside, we're driving home. Are we going to let the many distractions in this world make us forget and turn our heads of what we talked about today and what we hear constantly and what we see around us? Are we going to rush home to watch the football game? Rush home to watch our favorite reality show, the Kardashians, Real Housewives? We're going to rush home to look online to see what the latest Black Friday sales are so we can dedicate ourselves to stand in line for 5 hours to save $30 on the camera? Or are we going to start doing something about this to raise awareness on this issue? Sharing and spreading knowledge amongst our family and friends, and most importantly, coming together as a community to get involved. As I conclude, I have hope and faith because I've seen a positive community involvement can produce. And a great example of what I mean by that is this organization, this great organization in which I'm a part of, called the Shakir School of Martial Arts Organization. I have so much great pride in being a part of this organization, not only because the founders of this organization, my uncle, my father, my family's in charge of this, but the effect that it's had on so many countless people. I've seen firsthand the influence that Grandmaster Kevin Thompson has had on hundreds of students, parents, outside individuals, and within our community. I've been there, and I'm going on top of my head right now, I'm concluding right now. I've been there firsthand to see him get on a phone call when a student wasn't in class for a couple weeks, to find out what's going on and make sure he's okay at home. I've been there when he shut down class on February to make sure that everyone came with a Black History Month paper and read that the whole class to make sure that higher education is important. I've been there when he got on students who didn't bring their report cards because he didn't allow D's or F's in class. These are the things that we need to do. And if it wasn't for him and his passion and excellence, many of our past students, like those being from cities like North and East Orange, might have succumbed to the negativity of their environments, but instead they are success stories. This is more of what we need to ultimately loosen up the stranglehold that's clenching the necks of our Black youth. So as I finish, my original title of this essay was The Inevitable Destructive Path of Today's Black Youth. I had hoped that when I write my next essay on this topic, I will be able to delete that evil word destructive in that title and replace it with successful, so that my new and everlasting title will become The Inevitable Successful Path of Today's and the Future Black Youth. Thank you very much.